Well, I was glad to see Governor Dayton vetoed the anti-consumer legislation this morning that Republicans passed through last week. He was entirely right, exactly right. Those bills create no jobs for middle-class Minnesotans. They simply cater to big corporations and special interests while stacking the deck against regular people. We can do better than that. And this Republican philosophy, their economic policy of anything goes for corporations, has not worked for our state, and it won't work for our state in the future. Minnesotans are frustrated about government shutdown, partisan gridlock, and the lack of action on the important challenges that we're facing. They want legislators to focus on the issues that really matter to them, not cut and paste legislation from right-wing Washington, D.C. think tanks, and not divisive constitutional amendments. If we want to improve the public standing of the legislature, which I think we all want to do, and Minnesotans certainly want us to do, and do our best for Minnesotans, then the legislature ought to get back to the issues that, again, really matter to Minnesotans. Jobs in the economy, education, those kind of bread and butter issues. The DFL introduced several jobs initiatives this week. We hope we can work with the Republicans on those. And I just want to highlight one of them that Representative Mahoney talked to all of you about last week. But this Bridges to Work idea, I think, is something that really ought to garner bipartisan support. Essentially, it's saying instead of paying unemployment benefits to folks to stay at home, we're going to allow you to use those unemployment benefits and match it with a little bit of payment from an employer to get people into jobs, to get retrained, to improve their skills over 8 or 12 weeks, and to get them back in the job market. It's something I think Minnesotans would support, and it's something Minnesotans would want. They would rather be at work learning a new job, learning new skills, than staying at home. That's something that we should act upon right away next week in committee, as well as a number of the other jobs proposals that we've introduced. I think there's 11 of them now, very specific things that will actually get people back to work, as opposed to, I have to comment just a little bit on the bill that passed up the House floor yesterday. There was a claim made by Republicans that this is going to somehow improve the business climate, and their idea of improving the business climate is, again, just anything goes for corporations getting out of the way of businesses, right? Well, here they've taken that to the next level. They think they're going to create jobs by actually removing a regulation that doesn't yet exist. How is that going to create any jobs? It's laughable on its face. So I think we got to get back to the actual work that Minnesotans sent us here to do, which is to focus on the economy, getting people back to work with real proposals that will do that, and that's what we're committed to next week.
Speaker Zeller said that you authored one of the tort.
And I took it back to author after I learned that the proponents of the bill had not told me the truth of what the bill actually did. If you can check the record, I had it returned to author almost immediately.
So where are things at? It sounds like the tone is pretty bad. Zeller said the governor can call us stupid. Senjum said time to put away the spears. It doesn't sound like the session's off to a really hospitable start.
Well, you know that's the case, and and it's a couple things. First of all, I'm not sure Senator Senjum and the actions that the Senate has taken over the last couple of weeks is in any place to comment about that. And secondly, I think the governor called them intransigent. I don't know if I don't think the governor used the word stupid. And in fact, I think that's not an unfair characterization. They haven't worked with the Democrats, and we've put in very good proposals, again, on getting people back to work. We haven't had any response from the Republicans whatsoever about a willingness to reach out to us, to work with us on these things. If we start to see that, I think that, again, that's how we're going to improve the standing of this legislature.
Is it possible for you to be getting along headed into a redistricting election year? I mean, is this good politics for everybody?
I don't know if the redistricting has anything to do with it at all. I mean, clearly it is an election year, but the bottom line is that the way, I think as we came into this session, I guess what I would say is everybody was talking about getting people back to work. That's what the Republicans were talking about, the governor was talking about, that's what we were talking about, and we haven't seen that. I think the way that we can get along, and we should get along, and Minnesotans expect us to get along, is when we start working on those things, instead of what really is kind of this right-wing agenda that's being handed down by ALEC and other Washington, D.C. think tanks. That's not what Minnesotans want. They want lawmakers to kind of do the original stuff here in Minnesota that works for Minnesota. And that's why the No Child Left Behind waiver, I think, is going to be so great, because it'll allow us to do a Minnesota version of education reform in a meaningful way that works for kids and is not just kind of an off-the-shelf cookie-cutter approach that we're seeing from the Republicans. That's why it's important that we move forward on the health insurance exchange to do a Minnesota version of the health insurance exchange instead of, for ideological reasons, just opposing it at all costs. Once we get to a place where we're actually trying to solve the problems that are sitting here in Minnesota in a Minnesota way, we're going to be able to work together, and that's what Minnesotans want us to do. Okay, thank you.
You didn't get a seat.